the biggest issue right now is misinformation with investing. There's huge research to show that the 18 to 30 is one of the biggest ever age ranges in terms of what percentage of them are currently investing in some way, shape or form. But that doesn't mean they're necessarily putting it in the right place, because the internet is flooded with misinformation.
Our next guest has mastered the art of making social media real, relatable, seriously impactful, and gives financial insights into mindset gems. Gabriel Nussbaum, how are you doing, sir?
I am doing well. I'm very excited to be here today.
It is really good to have you in. This is a big jump for us because I think TikTok, you have 1.3 million followers.
That is correct, yes.
Does that just blow your mind every morning?
I try and ignore it as much as possible because it's probably more of a scary thing than an exciting thing every day to know that many people are watching and listening to things that I say about money.
Absolutely. And it's taken you to the Bank of England. Mm-hmm. It's taken you to 10 Downing Street. Mm-hmm. Has there been a moment along the journey where there was a real, you can say, whoa, this is when it changed forever?
There's been a lot of moments along the journey that are incredibly memorable. I suppose your first viral moment on the internet is one to remember.
What was that?
My first viral moment was talking about lifetime ISAs. Quite a nice, relevant topic, something that I think needs a little bit of a change, and maybe we can dive into that. But that was the first moment that I think a lot of people learned about the ISA product, probably through social media on TikTok. It wasn't a platform built for education, but it's a platform that I've used education for. So that was a big moment. And then I guess first hate comments, being called Wallace from Wallace and Gromit. That was a lovely moment.
Where did they get that from?
No idea. And then probably a handshake with Keir Starmer is a pretty memorable one as well. I mean, some people might hate.
Bad?
I'll leave that to everyone watching.
But really, it's amazing how. Tell us how it first started, because where you are now, the actual story of how everything started is really interesting.
Yeah, so I was working at Barclays on a graduate scheme, commercial banking, so really nothing to do with the world of personal finance. I'm not sure there are many careers that are very similar to the world of personal finance. And I, just as a weird guy, thought it would be fun to start a hobby creating financial education on the internet, because it was a topic I was passionate about. I was teaching in my own little circles. Okay. It was the thing I was reading about. And everything I know is self-taught. There's no qualifications behind it, which some people might be like, oh, okay, let's not watch this guy anymore. But for me, that adds an element of trust and authenticity behind my journey, because
Absolutely.
I'm not telling anyone what to do. I'm just teaching as I go. So yeah, I was building this up side by side while starting a career for myself. And very quickly, one overtook the other in terms of what I really wanted to do for the rest of my life. And that was to become a financial educator.
Yeah. And so how long ago was that then, when were you at Barclays?
So we're talking almost 5 years ago,
right,
to the day I started.
COVID.
A classic COVID one. I started my career during COVID, which means I didn't meet an employee for about a year, another employee.
Wow. So yeah, you can understand why you ended up, going down the online route then.
Talking to myself and going crazy on the internet. Yeah, absolutely makes sense.
You touch on that. Your videos they go so popular and viral, because it's you speaking to yourself, and it's almost like good cop, bad cop, devil on one shoulder, angel on the other. And I think that's what's so compelling about watching, because everybody's having these discussions to themselves anyway.
Yeah, it would be great, honestly, if I could bring in another human being into my studio and have a conversation with them. But until I have hired that person, I create these conversations, like you said, between two characters often. I just think it's a really engaging way to have like that look over my shoulder approach to personal finance. You have one character questioning something or not aware of a topic, and the other character can either explain it or challenge it. And this kind of dialogue does a really nice job of both giving you an end result, a lesson at the end of the day. But on top of that, it adds the entertainment value, which is really important when you're trying to teach, especially a younger generation, which my demographic are, which is normally 18 to 30-year-olds.
Okay.
You kind of need to trick them into learning a little bit. So that's why I add the entertainment into it as well.
Yeah. And then you share a lot of yourself personally. because it is that real situation. We spoke about rent the other day. Well, but how do you balance that sort of vulnerability, but then also have the boundaries as well?
It's tricky. It's something that I'm learning every day. I've definitely overshared a lot about my own personal finance. Whereas I suppose, opposite of that, which I also believe in, is that I like oversharing. I think that personal finance is a topic we all know it's not taught enough in any level of education.
That's it.
But on top of that, the conversations in this country in particular are so limited. It's so taboo. If you look at like levels of different topics of conversations that people are comfortable having or not comfortable having, money quite often tops that list as the most uncomfortable topic. So even though I know logically that I want to be as open as possible and be able to share anything and everything, it doesn't mean that I haven't still grown up inside of a society that closes that down. So I'm caught in that kind of two minds and two different personalities.
Yeah, but it is becoming much more the way, isn't it? We know that Mia shares her running total of her investment portfolio. Yes. Laura's got a target that she really strides towards. So I do think it's becoming more common. And how is that received? Because you do these, is it Vox Pops they're called?
Yeah, I mean, it's received brilliantly because at the end of the day, people are so nosy. Like, they love knowing actual numbers behind what's going on.
Yeah.
So I do try and share as much of it as possible because at the end of the day, even just sharing, a salary that you're currently earning or you did earn a period of your life, which is often a question that you said with the Vox Pops that I ask people to try and share.
Yeah.
If you're sharing a savings amount that you've got stored away, if you're sharing a goal that you're trying to hit, when you put numbers to a topic, it starts to make things a bit more realistic because someone else can start to see, okay, I didn't realize that, the threshold was actually quite lower than I thought, or I'm actually a bit further away than I thought. I need to maybe ramp things up a little bit. But until you bring actual numbers into it, it's very hard. So when I speak to people in the street and I push them to try and give me some numbers behind the information they're sharing with me. So like, for example, a salary, it's a 50-50 uptake whether people are comfortable sharing it or not.
Yeah.
But I think once they do, like the engagement shoots up because people are like, I didn't realize that you could earn that much in that kind of career, or that's the average salary in the UK, or someone is surviving in London earning less than 40k. How is that even possible?
I had that conversation with a young lady who was starting out in a estate agency, and I think her salary was 23,000. And I made the mistake of asking, God, how do you survive on that in London? And it was a genuine question. It didn't go down well.
No. It doesn't go down well at all. But the reason why I put that 40k number in a second ago was because when I asked most people, how much do you think you need to live in London?
Yeah.
The responses are probably start from 70 and go upwards for a single person. And I'm talking a comfortable lifestyle, of course.
That's it.
But there are numerous occasions where someone says, yeah, I'm in, the mid 20s, late 20s, early 30s in terms of my salary. And this is how I do it. Yeah. And to hear the start to like practical solutions and like things that they're doing to solve it doesn't mean it's easy.
No.
But it's a great eye opener for someone that does strive to maybe move to this area of the country.
And, people generally, do you find they're striving towards investing, towards the, you help a lot of people with their ISA understanding. Is investing the goal or are we still way off?
Investing is becoming a lot more popular. It really is, especially in young age groups. The biggest issue right now is misinformation with investing. So I think there's huge research to show that the 18 to 30 is one of the biggest ever age ranges in terms of what percentage of them are currently investing in some way, shape or form.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean they're necessarily putting it in the right place because the internet is flooded with misinformation. You also ask them, where are they getting that information to learn about this topic? And the answer most commonly is the internet, social media, maybe through people like myself. So whilst, yes, it is becoming hugely more popular, which I'm a huge advocate for. Absolutely. So are the government with a lot of plans that they're trying to do and stuff like that, whether they work or not is another topic of conversation. And I think overall it is a good thing. The biggest issue right now is lack of access to accurate and positive information rather than people that are trying to take advantage of this young, maybe slightly naive age group that don't have the right intentions or aren't aware of what certain tools and products should be used for.
Yeah, I mean, not to put it out there, but the Dubai crew. We've all seen the Lamborghinis and the high living, and that's the stuff that's, it's so good to see people like yourself and the ladies that I mentioned coming through and really from a genuine educational view, that has taken you to speak to the government and the Bank of England. What kind of conversations go on at that level?
I think it's an education play still for them. Both of those organisations are obviously historical organisations. Bank of England, one of the oldest institutes in the country. The government.
Yeah.
But they're both having this play where they realise they cannot access the young generation anymore. They are really struggling through their traditional, I suppose, assets and media.
Yeah.
And they look at us as the new wave of being able to communicate things to, again, this younger generation.
The masses.
To the masses, exactly. I suppose the important part for us as people who have that level of authority or maybe influence on the audience that are watching us is that we're not there to be mouthpieces. We're there to digest information they're sharing with us and then translate it in our own language with our own opinions attached to it.
Absolutely.
Because I think the issue that you see with a lot of like mainstream media is that they will repeat word for word, verbatim, what is being said. Now, they're doing that not because they're puppets or anything like that. That's their job, right? To report, to say what happened. But if you're watching that as an everyday person, you're probably thinking, I've got no idea what that means. I've got no idea. You're still using technical language on the news. Whereas I will come in and say, an ISA is, and actually explain what an ISA product is before I then go in to explain the changes that have been made to it.
Yeah.
And automatically that switches someone on. So I think that if we look at like the percentage again of people that are probably now aware of what an ISA product is for the first time, this is the change that we're trying to make. And I think that's what the government and the Bank of England have latched onto. They are aware that this is the change that needs to take place because ultimately it's where the attention is.
Yeah, and it's that really nice path into investing, right? The stocks and shares ISA is just, it's such a nice first step, right? Don't open a stocks and shares account. Don't open a trading account until you've got that level of confidence. But that can really start with the ISA, can't it?
The ISA product is amazing. Not quite sure why it's being tinkered with at the moment, or potentially tinkered with.
Well, that's interesting, isn't it? Because it's, from my point of view, what's the point in a cash ISA, right? Because investing has outperformed by so much, but it really needs people like yourself to help educate the nation on what's safe, what's not.
Well, it's exactly what you said. It's an education play. Whereas I think that the current rumours about the reduction of the allowance for the cash ISA isn't an education play. It's kind of like a force play.
Yeah.
And I don't think you change a nation's habits through rule changes. You change it through education. So if I'm someone that's saving through the cash ISA product, whether we think there's a use for it or not a use for it, let's say that someone is using it regardless, and they get told all of a sudden that they can't put in above a certain amount into that. I understand the logic. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I really do understand the logic because you're shifting people. Maybe they're looking, okay, what other ISA products are. But I think psychologically, if I've got no information or education on an investing product, what I'm going to do is I'm going to shift my savings into non-tax incentivized saving accounts. And the government, okay, sure, they will raise more tax through that because people will start to go over, the tax saving thresholds. But will you see this huge shift into the world of investing? I'm really not so sure. I think it's an education play, and it's a change in the language that's used around investing products within this country. Currently, whenever you talk about it, and again, I understand why, but it's capital at risk. Your
The scary three words.
Your capital might go down as well as up. Risk, warning, risk, warning.
Yeah.
And I do appreciate why that is, because all of those statements hold true. It just doesn't do any favors to someone who's thinking, oh, maybe I'll get into it. Oh, they see that risk. You know what? Like, I don't want to take any risks. Whereas if you start to explain how to mitigate risk or reduce risk, that is a much more, I think, appropriate way to shift people over into this new world of investing.
I guess it is part of the responsibility of the companies as well, isn't it? It's saying, right, we realise that you might not have the availability of the cash ISA anymore or greatly reduced. But if you open the stocks and shares ISA, we'll pay you the interest rate that you would have got on the cash ISA anyway. So the fact that companies are moving towards that at least softens the blow. But do you have conversations with the FCA around, but I guess they're more the regulator rather than the educator.
They are definitely the regulator, and I think they are currently working with big institutions to help in a way push towards the world of investing. I mean, investing has been democratized like crazy over the past decade.
Wow.
And so I think that's why there's this huge play for everyday people that can get into investing. It's not like you need to call up your broker anymore and put in an order, right? You can click on a few buttons and you've invested in any company or any fund in the world at some of the cheapest prices.
Yeah.
So the FCA are making, I think they are definitely working this behind the background. But in terms of working with someone like myself, I mean, you see last week the report going out about a couple of arrests in the UK on influencers,
right?
A huge number, dozens and dozens of cease and desist letters going out. And I think what they're targeting are what you call the Dubai people.
Yeah.
You know, the people that are being flashy, trying to push people into high-risk products with very little warning and stuff like that.
Okay.
So the FCA are definitely focused more on that area of the social media world, which is good. Obviously, it's great to get bad people off the internet. What I really want and what I'm really pushing for is to open up conversations with this new wave of, I suppose, good players in the game, people that are really trying to impact and make a difference. And often when you do hear them talk about us, it's in a very short sentence and they lump us in with financial advisors and, you know, qualified people. But there are this new era on social media of journalists, essentially.
Yep.
Think about someone like Martin Lewis, not a qualified financial advisor in any way, shape, or form, a financial journalist. And we're kind of in the same bracket, but I think there's that gap there. The conversation hasn't really been open between the FCA and this kind of new wave of people on social media.
Yeah.
And I think it would be a really useful conversation because I think we both have the same intentions.
That's it.
But we need to support each other rather than go, well, whilst keep going after the bad people, but lift up the good.
You need the clarity on where the line is.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's a lot of guidelines out there, and I get nowhere near to the line. I intentionally have been trained on that. I know how to do that a little bit. But there are new people that are starting up that have real good intentions that need to be taught that from the start. And I think, there's a lot of things that need to be done over, I suppose, the next couple of years because the landscape is changing so quickly.
Now, so let's go back to the sort of technicalities.
Okay,
so where does the idea? Let's take an investment. Mm-hmm. Where do you get that idea from, and then how quickly does it become a video?
My ideas come from all different places. So I'm keeping an eye on the economy the whole time, little changes that I can share. Hot and trending topics often come into play, and I will try and latch an idea. But a lot of the concepts that I make come from my own real life experiences because I'm constantly interacting with money on a hourly, secondly basis. So a lot of these things, like from interactions with my friends, conversations with my partner, all that area hugely influences what I'm doing. Whenever I look at my investing portfolio and I make a decision or something like that, I will immediately go, well, how can I teach that within a lesson? So if we're talking about specifically investing, you know, you get around the April area, you know, ISA allowance, renews and all that kind of stuff. And it's a brilliant time to go out and create content about, well, how to invest from scratch again, you know? How to, your ISA allowance is renewing, that element of urgency, but not really urgency or panic or anything like that. It's when people are getting more interested. Around the January area where people start to set New Year's resolutions. And they start to think, okay, you know what? This is the year that I start investing. Again, it's a great period of time in my head where I'm like, okay, I'm resetting all of my things a little bit, my financial goals, my budgets, etc. Let me create content around that. And that's the investing side of things, I suppose, or whenever I get a question from my audience, because there's huge interaction. Social media isn't a one-way conversation, it's a two-way conversation.
How do you keep up with all the comments?
I don't.
It must be impossible.
I really don't. But when there's a good one, it will come through and I will often try and respond to that comment in the most appropriate way possible. So I'm trying to think of an example. Often I'll get asked, well, what platform do you want to invest on? And my response quite often is just start. Literally, just start. I think people overthink a lot of this stuff.
Because it can be quite intimidating.
Because when someone asks that question, the comments start to go with floods of different names. Start here, this reason, that reason, that reason. And so many platforms are suitable for so many different people for different reasons. But I still think that it's better to get started on the wrong platform, theoretically, as long as, you know, FCA approved, FSCS protected, all that kind of stuff. But to get started on the wrong platform than to have that kind of procrastination that stops you from getting started full stop. Because one of the best and quickest lessons I ever learned was putting some skin in the game is the quickest way to learn.
That's it, because you're focused and you really, you soon learn your lessons on a small amount.
It's exactly how I learned, right? Put something in, something that I was willing to completely lose. So I was aware of all of the risks around it. And it forced me to start learning. And I think that's probably done more for my education than any video course book that I've ever read.
Yeah. There's a lot of our viewers, mums and dads, a lot of the kids are studying for exams right now. But if you were going to say, give one principle or one habit for a new beginner with even £100, what do you think is the best habit to adopt early?
Specifically with investing?
Yeah.
I think that one of the best habits is to just kind of start small. Because often people think there's a lot of reasons why people don't get into it. And one of the biggest ones is I don't earn enough or I don't have enough. But the truth is, like we said, the barriers to entry are being eroded so quickly that there isn't a huge amount that you need to start with anymore. So if I was to say like to build one habit, one muscle, it's just to start small, start where you're comfortable with, and then adapt and learn from there. And then I suppose if you can allow me so I can do a bit of habit stacking.
Go on.
Is once you have started with that really small amount, something insignificant that you've kind of testing out to get the feel for it, bring in the education play. I don't care where you get it from. If it's a book that you want to start reading, if you want to start watching this show every single day, if you want to go on YouTube and just start watching your favorite content creator who's talking about the topic. I think if you just do one small thing once a week, 10 minutes of your time, we speak about compound interest in investing, right?
Yeah.
The compound interest in education stacks up in exactly the same way.
I've never heard that before. I like that a lot.
That's everything in life compounds, right?
Yeah.
So the education play is just as strong as the investing play.
Right, so how do people find you if they have enjoyed this interview? And
I like that, a big if, right? If people have enjoyed it. If you hate me, feel free to find me, hunt me down and let me know.
Right, I'm sure we've got some comments but there you go on the TikTok. So as we said, that money guy, Gabriel Nussbaum.
Yeah, Gabriel, that money guy. If you search that on all social media platforms, you'll find this beautiful non-Wallace looking face talking about finance in all ranges of topics and anything that interests me.
And so you must have been in early to get that title then.
Get that money guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Someone said you should have gone with the money guy. It's too late now, isn't it?
No, I think that's that money guy.
Well, that's where it came from. I was walking past someone and they were like, "Oh, you're that money guy on the internet, right?" And I was like, "That's got a ring."
Go on, to finish off, give us one of the funniest interactions you've had with a fan.
Oh, it's a fan or not a fan. I am horribly uncomfortable when people come up to me in the street, but I have to act very comfortable and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But I think I was just on a plane going on holiday, and literally, like in front of me in the road, someone literally turns around and goes, "I really like your stuff." And I was like, "That's great." And then they proceed to sit next to me on a 4-hour flight. And I was just sitting there thinking they've come up to me, a stranger, saying they know me. Let's get the headphones in nice and quickly and just maybe pretend to fall asleep, because I was like, it's great when someone comes up to you and it's a quick 10-second interaction.
Yeah, of course.
4 hours is a little bit different.
Good stuff, right? Thank you so much. That's really been interesting stuff. And any big aspirations? So you've already done Keir Starmer. You've been there for Andrew Bailey.
Yeah.
What's the next?
What, DJT? The big DJT off in the US? Maybe I'll have a conversation with him one day. No, I think the goal for me would be if there was some level of formal education compulsory in the UK. None of this maths A-level enforced on kids until they're 18 or anything like that. Real financial education starting from, I don't care what age, 5, 10, 15, 20 when you leave school and university. If I saw something compulsory going into people's lives in the next half decade, I think that would be one of the biggest successes that I think I can make. Basically make me irrelevant. I'm more than happy for that to happen.